Welcome back to Radio Times. I'm Mary Cummings Jordan. The Unionville Chadds Ford School District is in the second year of an experiment of sorts. Students in middle and high school don't have to report to class until 8 a.m., which means they get an extra 25 minutes of sleep. Unionville Chadds Ford is part of a slowly growing trend in which more secondary schools are pushing back the opening bell in accordance with recommendations from medical groups like the American Academy of Pediatrics, which have found that teens are naturally wired to stay up later. It might seem like a no-brainer for districts to make the switch to a later start time, but there are significant factors to consider. We'd like to know what you think if you're a parent, an educator, or a student, or just interested in weighing in. Here's the number to call, 888-477-9499. You can send us an email at radiotimes@whyy.org or tweet us at WHYY Radio Times. Joining us now to tell us how it's going at the Unionville Chadds Ford District is School Superintendent John Sanville. Welcome, John.
Good morning, Mary. Thanks so much for having me on.
So teens in your district can get some extra shut-eye now. Is it worth it?
Well, it's absolutely worth it. And in the interest of full disclosure, I'm someone that feels very strongly about this. And so you're going to get the positive side of this, but I'll also be very open and honest about the challenges, because there are certainly the challenges to face when you make an initiative like this. The real bottom line to this, that what we've experienced, we made a modest change, as you said, 25 minutes. With some changes in bus routes, we were able to push back our first pickup of students from 6:17 to 7 o'clock, so more like 45 minutes for some kids. And what we do know is that kids are sleeping more, and that they're more alert when they're in school. So it's really, from us, and also anecdotally talking to families, it's been a really positive change.
So, and does the school day now end later?
That is correct. That's correct. So we push back start time 25 minutes for our secondary schools, and we finish 25 minutes later, so 2:43 for the end of the day.
And how has this affected things like athletics and other after-school activities?
Well, for us, we were able to sort of steal some time at the end of the day. We used to wait 50 or 30 minutes at the end of the day before we started practice in order to give kids a chance to meet with teachers or to maybe just get themselves sorted out and changed. And we were able to crunch that to 15 minutes, and really with no ill effects. And so what we've seen is what was not great before is still not great. There are times, particularly in the spring season, when kids are leaving that last period of the day. They miss some of their classes, but we've done some things and are looking to do some things to address that, some hybrid kinds of classes and senior privilege last period of the day, so the impact is mitigated.
According to medical experts, if teens don't get 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep on a regular basis, and that can seem like a lot, it can increase the risk for depression, car accidents, substance abuse, and not to mention they're falling asleep in class, which is why they're there in the first place. You yourself, kind of picking up on something you said a little bit earlier, you're quoted as saying this is an endeavor that is not for the faint of heart. That's a pretty strong statement. So John Sanville, let's get some more into some of the obstacles. Transportation. You have to bus not only middle school and high schoolers, but elementary school students as well, and kids in private schools. So how did you work that puzzle? So for us, we have in-house transportation. Not every school district has in-house transportation, so we were able to work with our own people to develop bus routes that would fit and work. When we initially went into this, we were figuring a $30,000 to $40,000 cost, additional cost, really wrapped around busing our private school kids whose school start times didn't change with ours. But in reality, in the end, it was really a wash. It didn't cost us anything more to do. But frankly, we were lucky. There's districts that wouldn't be the case, and that's one of the things I think that you don't see widespread change in this, is that
is the cost. And for some districts, it's literally in the millions of dollars to take this on. But I think that at the end of the day, and this is what it was for us, is you hit the nail on the head that the lack of sleep for adolescents there's a negative health impact. And and all those things that you say, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Medical Association, the CDC, these groups are all advocating for later start times, and these are groups that are well known, and they don't lightly take on a topic like this. And you have to pay attention when they say that we have a health, safety, welfare issue, and the things that you talk about, in particular from a social emotional standpoint, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, suicidal ideation, all related to sleep deprivation. I think it's incumbent on us to try and find ways that we can afford to do this.
Let me reintroduce you. John Sanville is school superintendent for the Unionville Chadds Ford District. John, we're getting some comments in, and so let's get to some of these. Stephen says, I disagree with later start times because no matter how we treat kids in school, they'll still have to learn how to be on time to things in the real world. We should prepare them for this reality early, and school start times are a way we can do this. What do you think?
Well, I agree that we should be on time for things. I think that I agree wholeheartedly with Stephen there. We set a school start time, and we should hold kids accountable for being to school on time. But what we do know, that the science of sleep and circadian rhythms, that we start school too soon, and that's we have to be aware of that. We also know the world has changed, right? It's and our kids, and we know this over the decades, that our students over the decades are getting less and less sleep. And so I think we need to be aware of the health crisis, but I agree with Stephen that we should hold kids accountable to get to school on time.
We have an email from Melanie who says, who asks, why not take 5 minutes off of each class throughout the day? Seems to me that would save almost an hour in the morning and still finish at the same time in the afternoon.
Well, we do have in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, there are rules around numbers of hours of instruction. So at the secondary level, we have to give 990 hours of instruction, 180 days of school, 990 hours of instruction. So that's also an impact in there, and we cut it pretty close on that account. So that's all state driven, and and we looked at I think that it is important for us when we look at how we can help kids to have a healthy start time and have districts do that. I like out of the box thinking in that regard. We're looking at hybrid models for learning, and I think that's I don't have a problem, or I think that's a great way to look at things. But for us in that particular point, getting that 990 hours is required.
Younger kids are apparently wired to get up earlier. So for many districts, is flipping the opening time a good idea? It's a heavier lift in terms of bringing on community support, because we all know that change is difficult. Change is difficult for everyone. And when you talk about challenges, which is a question that you had earlier, probably the greatest challenge that we faced was childcare. It was childcare not only for our community, for our families, but also for our staff, because our staff, not all of them live in our district, and their children go to school districts where the school start time is earlier, and so there's an impact there. So there needs to be, if you look at a flipped start time, there needs to be a lot of conversation and engaging of stakeholders to make that happen. What other feedback are you hearing from parents, John?
The positive to negative 10 to 1. It's I get feedback from folks that you've made our family life so much better. The mornings are so much less stressful. It's so much easier to get my son or daughter up in the morning. It's not a battle every day. We can sit and have breakfast together. it's been tremendous in terms of the feedback, all anecdotal, but feedback from our parents has been great.
And how about concerns from educators other than the child care issue you just referenced?
Not really concerns. The things that we're hearing, especially from secondary teachers who have those first and second period classes, is that kids are more alert, they're awake, they're paying attention, they're more ready to learn. And by the way, and this is something we did not do this for the academic side of this. We really did it from a social, emotional, student wellness perspective. So that was, and we've seen positive benefits on that side. Any
major snags in the switch to a new time? Are there any changes that still need to be made to make this work better?
Well, I'll tell you what I'd love to do is as more and more districts start to make the change. We see Phoenixville area school district has gone to 8:05. Other school districts are looking at making the change. I'd love to be able to revisit this and look at perhaps an 8:30 start, because that's really when you look at what the AAP and the AMA and the CDC, they're all talking about an 8:30 or later start. I'd love to revisit this once we have some friends that have joined us at 8 o'clock.
That's probably a few years down the road, I'm guessing.
It perhaps, but as I said, we've already got some districts that have made the change for next year, and we have others that are looking at it. So I'm hopeful that maybe sooner rather than later.
We've got a comment from Jane who says, I'm in my 70s, and when I was in school in the 1940s and 50s, school started at 9 and ended at 3:45 every day. And not sure if you've got this answer, but historically, I'm wondering what happened.
I don't know where those changes came, but that is true. And we also know that in the 40s and 50s, adolescents got more sleep. So I'm right there. But the 9 o'clock start, I think, would suit us all very well.
Well, and speaking again of sleep, a huge hindrance, of course, is screen time and the ubiquitous phone and the blue light that emanates from devices. Should educators attack the sleep issue from this angle as well?
Absolutely. The whole notion of what we call sleep hygiene, that was a sort of a second rail, a parallel rail for us as we went into this initiative, was to teach families and to teach students, how to not only get sleep, but to get good sleep. And, the ideas of not having the phone by the bed, as you said, the blue light from the screens and what that does to the mind and the ability to shut down and be ready to sleep, is absolutely a factor. And it's and even if you don't change school start times, if the challenges are too great for a district to make a change in the start time, certainly the sleep hygiene piece is a no-cost initiative that will benefit everybody.
What are you hearing from students about sleep hygiene? Are you seeing any changes? I mean, we've done shows on this before. It can be really hard for any of us to put that cell phone down, their smartphone. Are you seeing any changes there?
I wish I could tell you. I don't have the data, right? So this is the feedback that I get from students, and when I go into the cafeteria or I'm in classes or walking the halls talking to kids, and my sense is that it's a work in progress, that we're not quite there yet. It's as you said, the screens and devices and social media have such a hold on our youth today, and maybe just all of us, that it's difficult to put it down. And but we have more and more families that are doing things where no phones in the bedroom, and you've got to shut down. So we've got a toehold, and we're hoping that it gets better.
I've read, John Sanville, that the move to back to the start time, the move to the new start time at Unionville Chadds Ford began with a student effort. Is that true?
Yes, it's a great story. We had in the fall of 2013, we had a teacher that gave the students an assignment, and the assignment was, if you were to change one thing about Unionville High School to make it better, what would it be? And so the students are brainstorming, and you've got one student with a large coffee and another student with a Red Bull, and somebody else who's got their head down, and they said, we're tired. We need to start school later. And so that put us on a 4-year journey that with that class assignment started by students led to us and the board taking a vote and changing our school start times for 2017. Was it
an easy decision? Was there some big pushback? And if so, how did you win them over?
Well, so it is I would say this to any community that's looking at this is to be brave. Because when we surveyed our community, and we surveyed students, we surveyed parents, we surveyed staff, and the feedback that we got on that survey was really split 50-50. Half the folks wanted to make the change, half the folks didn't. And at the end of the day, we looked at the health benefits for our kids versus the challenge of addressing the needs of the 50%, and we made a recommendation to the board, and our school board was brave enough, bold enough to pass it 8-1 with our one dissenting vote, not being against the initiative but against the timing, and so I would say that to folks that be brave.
John Sanville, thank you so much for joining us for Radio Times.
No, not at all. You have a great day.
You too. John is school superintendent for the Unionville Chadds Ford School District. Our engineer today has been Diana Martinez. Our producer is Debbie Builder, John Ahrens, Kelsey Hansen, with help this week from Susan Greenbaum. I'm Mary Cummings Jordan. Great to have you along with us for Radio Times.